I will never look at Halloween the same way after learning this. One Halloween night in Bikini Bottom, something felt off. SpongeBob SquarePants was getting ready for a night of trick-or-treating, as he always did. But this year was different. Bikini Bottom seemed quieter, darker, and even stranger than usual. The streets, usually bustling with fish ready to give out candy, were eerily empty. SpongeBob had invited his best friends, Patrick and Squidward, to join him. The trio set out with their bags, heading door to door, receiving candy from the few residents that dared to come out. As they continued deeper into the neighborhood, they noticed a strange, abandoned house at the end of Coral Avenue. It was a place no one dared to go, not even daring trick-or-treaters. The windows were shattered and the walls were covered in seaweed and barnacles. Rumor had it that an old fisherman used to live there, but he disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Patrick, oblivious to the creepy aura, suggested they visit the house for a last big haul of candy. Squidward rolled his eyes, but SpongeBob, always eager for adventure, agreed. As they approached the house, the temperature dropped, and a cold, salty breeze swept through the street. The door, slightly ajar, creaked as they pushed it open. The inside of the house was pitch black, with only faint beams of moonlight seeping through the broken windows. It smelled damp and rotten, like decaying sea creatures. But what caught their attention most was the eerie silence. They ventured further inside. The walls were lined with ancient, tattered nautical maps and strange trinkets from the deep ocean, but what stood out the most was an old mirror hanging in the center of the room. The mirror was cracked, its surface fogged, as though someone had just breathed on it. Patrick, ever the clown, stepped up to the mirror and started making funny faces. But instead of reflecting Patrick's usual goofy grin, the image in the mirror twisted. Patrick's reflection became distorted, his face warping into something terrifying. His eyes bulged grotesquely, his mouth stretched into an unnatural, eerie grin, and his body melted into a shadowy form. Patrick, unaware, kept making faces, but SpongeBob and Squidward stared in horror. "Patrick, stop!" SpongeBob shouted, but Patrick couldn't hear him. He was transfixed on the mirror, his reflection now grinning back at him maliciously. SpongeBob grabbed Patrick by the arm, yanking him away from the mirror. The reflection lingered for a moment before slowly fading back to normal. "Let's get out of here," Squidward muttered, his usual snark replaced with genuine fear. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from upstairs. They froze. The air in the house grew colder and the walls seemed to close in on them. "What was that?" SpongeBob whispered, his voice trembling. Patrick's usual bravery had drained from his face, and for once he was speechless. Squidward, trying to maintain some semblance of composure, began backing toward the door, motioning for SpongeBob and Patrick to follow. But as they turned to leave, the door slammed shut. The room plunged into complete darkness, and they were trapped. The old fisherman's deep, raspy voice echoed through the house. "You shouldn't have come here." Suddenly, the mirror began to glow, casting an unnatural light around the room. Shadows started swirling inside it, pulling at the trio. The reflection of the fisherman appeared, his ghostly form rising from the depths of the glass. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale and drenched in seawater. Slowly, he reached out of the mirror toward them. "I've been waiting for visitors," the voice rasped, sending a shiver down their spines. SpongeBob grabbed a nearby shell and hurled it at the mirror. It shattered, the shards flying everywhere. The ghostly figure screeched, and the house shook violently as the shadows seemed to dissipate. The door swung open with a loud bang, and they bolted out, not daring to look back. As they reached the safety of the street, out of breath, they looked at each other, the horrifying memories seared into their minds, waiting for the next visitor.